You're all doing well. Thanks for joining. I'll let a few others jump on, but I am recording today's session, so you can go back at any time. Dina mentioned that she's multitasking. She's watching, answering the phones for her office. So if you're doing the same, just know that I do record these sessions, and so you can go back and watch it at any time. And then everything we go over, most of today is going to be a live demo, but I'm also going to provide you a PDF afterwards that has a lot of tutorials of what we're going to talk about, so you'll have that on hand too. Okay. If you aren't used to Teams, in the top right of your screen you should see a chat feature. You're welcome to put in your questions there. I do have that open and will monitor that the best I can as we go, or you can certainly stop me at any time and ask your question. So let's get started. So thank you for joining today's session on how to win listings with beautiful custom listing presentations. And if you don't know what tool builds beautiful custom listing presentations, that is Moxi Present. So hopefully you want to win every listing that you go on the appointment for, right? You want to stand out amongst the competition. So Moxi Present is the tool on desk that allows you to build these presentations. You can impress your clients with a digital presentation where you open it up on the web, or you can print and bind a PDF, hand them a physical copy. But the cool thing about Moxi, as you'll see, is that templates are already created for you. There's very little work you have to do if you're kind of crunched for time. But then again, everything is customizable. So as far as the listing presentation goes, I mentioned that you kind of start with templates, and you start with a template as your starting point, and then you're able to make customizations if you want. Most templates are about 90–95% grab and go. If you absolutely have no time, there's one or two adjustments we want you making, and then technically the bulk of the work is done for you. But really the opportunities are endless with Moxi, which we love because you can add your own pages. I'll show you how to do that. Remove pages you don't love, that don't really fit your brand and your story. So I will show you all of that today. So I'm going to go live. And like I mentioned, everything I'm showing you, I will also follow up with a PDF. Okay. So on desk, the tile we're looking for is called CBx plus Moxi Present. And if you're curious about the CBX portion, I will talk a little bit about it, but it's also its own tile, CVX Buyer Locator. And when I get to this spot, just know that this is a really good tool that you could sign up for as a one-on-one with your local marketing team. I'll touch on it, but there definitely isn't enough time for a deep dive. So we'll let that load up. If you're following along, everything should look very similar to you. Let's see, I'm going to turn off my phone's Wi-Fi, make this go a little bit faster for y'all. So when I log into Moxi, you can Okay, well, sorry about that, guys. I turned my Wi-Fi off and I don't know, it kicked me out. So, okay, we should be back on my screen. You should see this. I don't know what happened. So what you're seeing is my dashboard in Moxi, okay? All of these little tiles that you see are presentations that I have created in the past. So it's kind of my history of everything I've created. So I can go back and view these at any time. This also means that if I need to take a couple of days to work on my presentation, I can. It auto saves for me. Okay. I'm going to first walk you through how to create a new presentation, and then I'm going to end up in settings so that you can see some of the customizations that I've made, such as my agent profile, my photo, my bio, some links that I've included, that kind of thing. Okay. So to build these beautiful custom listing presentations, you want to start by clicking Create New. And Moxi has 4 categories. There are two buyer categories. We had a class on this yesterday. If you're interested in learning about how Moxi can support you as a buyer's agent, I do recommend you joining that class. We have it again in two more weeks. The one we're going to talk about today is the seller category. And this is where we're going to have several templates to choose from. So I'm going to click seller and I'm going to click continue in the bottom right. And then what we're going to see on step 2 is what template do we want? So once it loads, there's going to be kind of 2 sections. It defaults me to what is called a broker template. But as I take a template and I make it my own, meaning I remove some pages, I add some custom pages, I'm going to show you how you can save this as a template. And when you do that, that means you don't have to start from scratch every single time with the broker templates. That means you can actually toggle into My Templates and you can choose one that you have custom built or custom tweaked previously, okay? For the purpose of today, I am going to start from scratch so that assuming you haven't done this before, you can see the same thing, okay? You will scroll down to your metro. I'm based in Houston. So I'm going to go down to Houston just so I don't mess up anything when I build my CMA. But everybody, no matter what metro you're in, you're going to see similar templates, okay? You're going to see 3 that are specific to listing concierge. In this case, mine says gold, 12-minute listing presentation, platinum, 12-minute listing presentation, and silver 12-minute listing presentation. We don't go over these in this class, but know that these 3 are just pages to really deep dive into the listing concierge program. And so all the elements you get in the silver package, each element is its own page of a presentation, okay? This also means you can actually drop these into another template if you want, but the one we're gonna work on today is kind of the big overview seller's presentation. Listing concierge is lumped into one page, okay? Diana is asking, what about the new bronze package? We will see that once it's launched. That doesn't launch until March 23rd. So we will see that hopefully on the 23rd. If not, it will come shortly after. As I keep scrolling, I'm going to see, again, it'll be specific to your metro, and then CBGL presentation, that's Coldwell Banker Global Luxury. So if you are a global luxury agent, or if you're going on a listing appointment and that property is above what you think is going to be on the market, above the threshold in that zip, then you can present as global luxury. Okay, it's branded for global luxury, not Coldwell Banker Realty. It doesn't fall within the seller's category, but if you happen to be a team or if you're going to develop a team, there is actually a recruiting presentation in here, which allows you to, recruit new team members. The last 2 seller templates, there's one called a pre-listing presentation, which is usually like a step 1, step 2 process. Marketing doesn't talk a whole lot about that, but our education department does. And a pre-listing appointment is if you haven't run the comps on the home, you don't yet know, you haven't seen that property in person, you want to gather more information. You do a quick pop by with that seller and you take enough information to obviously engage them and want them for them to have you to come back and build that CMA. So it's kind of more pages that are branded for Coldwell Banker and for you. And then there is the large seller's presentation. And it's 58 pages long. Okay, so it is rather long, but again, it's a starting point for you to be able to add, edit, remove all of that. Okay, that's the one we're going to demonstrate today so that you can really see the full gamut of what these presentations offer. When you find the one you want, you click the circle and you click continue. And then this last step before it populates, it's going to ask for the settings. Who is this being prepared for? In my background in blue, I have over in here from a previous one, Mr. Seller. This is usually where you would put in your client's name because once you actually put in their property, it will automatically populate for you. So you could put in, you could even put in the date if you wanted, up to you. but I do like putting in their name. It makes them feel it's customized to them. Your listing source. This is going to specify what MLS your comps are being pulled from. Because not only does Moxi provide you a professional looking listing presentation, it's also your built-in CMA. So you don't have to toggle back and forth between your MLS and your listing presentation and mesh the two. It's all built in together to help keep you working efficiently. If you are brand new, like brand new is in like a week or so, you might not see your MLS here. Okay, so give it some time or get with your SSA. If you happen to be a member of multiple MLSs, make sure you're on the right one, or else the comps, the portion when we pull the comps won't work correctly. I'm going to click create in the bottom right, and I'm going to let that generate for me. And it will then open up the steps we're going to look at for the rest of the class. So along the top is where there's 5 steps, okay? And I can actually toggle back and forth between all of them. I do not have to do this in a certain order. What I recommend, and I recommended this in the buyer class yesterday, is if you open a template and you're just not quite sure what the template entails, like the pre-listing appointment, well, what exactly is that going to show me? Jump to pages and take a look. You can jump ahead, see what pages are included in that template to see if, yeah, this is the right one I want to use, okay? And so we'll end on pages, but I do want to point that out. So what happens is through these steps, they kind of all build on each other, okay? So your subject property is the property you're going to the appointment on that you're trying to win the listing for, okay? So it's important to put this information in, because if I generate and view my presentation now, I would see where my subject property is actually mentioned a few times. So if I click view, and I like to toggle back and forth so you can see what the final presentation looks like plus kind of the back end. Presentation's ready, I scroll down. What will happen is it's just going to tell me, you know, what I named it, Mr. Buyer, but ideally when I plug in a listing, it's going to have that address here. It's also going to have it on my comps page. So it's important that I do fill this out. A tip for you. If you are going on a listing appointment that the property has been on the MLS recently, then you can actually take that old MLS number and plug it in here. And you would click copy. And the beauty of this platform is that it will copy, literally copy, all of the appropriate information from that old MLS number. So you are relying on the old listing agent's information, so double check their work. But a lot of time is saved, especially if you don't know all the information, right? And then the other cool thing is it will actually feed from the MLS all of the photos. And so you generate, and it will be shown right here, okay? It will also generate on some other pages I'll show you later. So if you have that, definitely take advantage of it. I know that's not the case for every listing. I'm in Houston. There's many properties where they've never been on the market, so you are stuck having to plug in the information yourself, okay? Nothing is technically required, but I will show you how, again, how much better your final product will be with the more information you fill out, okay? That is my best advice. Fill out as much information as possible. Capitalization bothers me, so I'm going to go back and fix my work. So I plugged in my address, city, state, and zip, and it populated a map for me, which double checks me. Yes, I plugged in the right address, okay? Any community information you have, MLS area, community, all of this is optional. You plug in as little or as much as you want, okay? The biggest tip I have for you is right here, square footage. If you are going to use Moxi to its fullest potential, I highly recommend you plug in square footage. Why? Because it is going to feed, when I scroll back up, it's going to feed over into step number 4, the estimate, which means right here, square footage of my subject property is 2,500 square feet. And when it does all of its calculations based on the sold comps that I pull, if I don't have square footage on my subject property, it's not going to spit out a suggested price. Okay, you could easily do the math, so it's not the end of the world. It's just, again, if you're in the time crunch, you want to take advantage of this calculation that can be done for you. Okay, so on step one, I do recommend that you pay attention to that. Again, it doesn't tell you that. There's no little asterisks or anything, but just know that square footage here will feed into step number 4. Okay, so again, fill out as little or as much as you want. You can upload your own photo. So if you have driven by before your appointment, or you did a pre-listing appointment, you snapped a photo, grab something off of Google, you can browse and upload something from your computer that you've taken yourself. Okay. I'm going to go to step number 2. You can either go all the way down at the bottom. If that's where you ended, there is a continue button. There is no right or wrong way to do this. Step number 2 is called search. Okay, this is where we are literally going to search for our comps. So just like if you were going into your MLS, looking for your comps, producing a report, this is where we're going to do it. Okay, I do have some agents in Houston who do a side-by-side with our local MLS and do it with Moxi just to make sure they match. I did it with somebody a couple weeks ago. We got a perfect match. So it's just, it's kind of how you run the search. So what will happen is my subject property address filled out automatically for me. Again, one less thing I have to do. All right. I can use these 3 buttons to filter out what I want. The price will, if you have entered the ML, like an old MLS number, and it sold for like 300,000, you might see the price actually auto filter for you to say, like, I want to see anything between like 280 and 320. So you might have to make some adjustments there. Okay, I'm going to plug in something so I can narrow down my results. Bed bath, same thing. I don't have minimum and maximum entered in here. However, in my subject property page, if I did put in 3 beds, 3 baths, and I go back to step number 2, I'll show you what will happen. It will auto-populate. It'll go down 1 and go up 1. So again, you may or may not like that. I'm going to go back and put in my price. And I think, like, for Houston, our MLS does that for us. So, this might be something you're used to. Same with bath. When you're done, click apply. The 3rd button is filters, which means it's all other filters available to you, which you're going to want to use. Okay. When I click it, I see a gray area on the left and a white area on the right. The gray area is where you specify what statuses you want shown in the results list. Do you want to see actives? Plan on using actives in your comps? Yes or no? Up to you. Do you plan on using solds? Yes, most likely. How far back? Maybe, in this market, maybe sold the last 3 months, maybe last 30 days. And then do you want to see other statuses? It's completely up to you. Okay. Whatever you have been taught as far as building your CMA. I'm going to narrow down some of these just for my results. And then you can narrow down what kind of property type you want to see. And then any other information. Okay. My square footage, remember, I entered my square footage, so it is decreasing and increasing for me. I might want to narrow this down just a bit more. Given the area, I kind of know that I'll get enough results here. Okay. I don't see any questions, so y'all still feel free to stop me if you have anything. I'm going to click apply, and my page will automatically update for me. I had 78 results. It dropped to 13. Okay. The other way you can get results is this map is a live map, if you will. So if I zoom in and out, my 13 is going to automatically update once it kind of kicks in. So it dropped to 4. Okay. So depending on your area, comps might not be exactly where right where the property is. You might have to click and drag and it will update for you. Okay. The sort by, so if all of your filters still give you, 100 results you need to look through and you're not sure, how they're being sorted, it feels kind of random. You can sort by status and see actives first and sold last, or sold to actives. You can sort high, low price. You can sort and rank them in these orders for your research. Okay. As you look at these properties, I zoomed in so y'all could see some stuff, but I'm going to zoom out for a second. As you're looking through these properties, each one has a details button off to the right, it's synced to your MLS. So it will bring up all of the same information as if you were in your local MLS. Okay, same thing with photos. You can click through all of that. You do have the option of clicking right here if you want to include this listing as a comp. You can check it. Okay, I will show you the other way to do that. Notice now there's a check mark. Here, if I know for a fact that I don't need to click details, but I know this is one I want to include as a comp, as I hover over it, you see a plus mark. I just click it and it turns to a green check mark. And what is happening, so I've selected 3. What's happening is these are collecting as my comps. So up at the top on step number 3, it will tell me listings, and it will tell me 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will tell me how many I've collected. Okay, so up to you, no right or wrong way. This is your follow your method of how you build comps. Okay. The other thing you can do, let's say, so I relied on the location where it pulled in my subject property, which is the star. But let's say out of these, I am just not finding a property that I know for a fact is, right next door. You can toggle over to MLS number and you can just simply type in the MLS number and that will bring it up for you. It'll remove your filters. It will just bring up your MLS number. Okay. And then thirdly, you do have these options here. You can look at, public schools, private schools. You can draw specific, very detailed parameters on your map, just like you can with your local MLS. And then you can also do your own radius. Okay, to where it would, bring in and out radius. Okay. So this is really fun to play with. You can follow along and you can create a presentation like this without actually having to go on a listing appointment. And I do recommend that you get to know this technology by playing with it. So build a test one like I am, come in here and look at an area, pretend, and this is way you can practice. Yes, I see Diana, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I have a question because it looks like that, I'm really new to this platform, so it looks like Moxi Present is a way to do CMAs. And my curiosity is, in today's market, we're in Austin. I'm outside of Austin in Dripping Springs, and I've got a neighborhood that I've got a house that has no comps, literally no comps. We're in the luxury market. The subdivision has 19 homes in it. They are all about 4 years old and nobody has sold. So I don't know. We're looking around. It's getting ready to be appraised and the appraisers are shaking their heads too because there's just no comps. So I'm not sure, especially if it's not on market yet. If it's doesn't have an MLS and the people don't want it in the MLS, what do you do then?
Okay, perfect question. So I'm getting there. So you can add in a custom listing. If it's not on the MLS, you can add a custom listing. So that's on the next step.
Okay.
Does that kind of answer for now?
Yeah, I think I'm ahead of myself.
Okay, no problem. That's a great question though. Yes, in this hot market, you're definitely going to see that. So this is your search tool. Okay, this is how you start collecting your comps. To that point, how do you add a custom listing that's not on the MLS? It seems like it should be on this step, but it's not. Okay, so I'm going to go to step number 3, where we're going to look at my listings that I've collected. And there is a button that says Add Custom Listing. Okay, so that will allow me, when I click it, to add in this exact scenario of what you've mentioned. It does give you the option. You can pull in an old MLS info if needed, but most likely it's a for sale by owner or it's just not yet on the market. Like you mentioned, you would manually plug in all of the information. Okay, it looks very similar to my subject property page. Okay, and that custom listing will then be collected. Notice my 4 bumped up to 5. Okay, it will be collected as that additional comp, and you can do as many as you need to. It's a great question. So this step, listings, what this is actually showing us is the display order. And the display order is when I go back to my live presentation, I'm going to refresh. Since I've collected my comps, I want to show you what will happen. I'm going to jump down to where I know comps are located in this template. You'll get to know this as well once you play with it. It's towards the end. Side-by-side comparisons is where they start. Okay, my subject property is here. Notice I never plugged in a photo. That's why it's blank. That's why it's important to plug in a photo. Okay, what's happening is, and I know it's going to be little, but this Beale landing court says comparable number 1, comparable number 2, comparable number 3. In this market, it might not matter, right? Things might be equally just as important for you to present. But in some cases, it might not be. You might actually say, no, this one right here truly is, I want this one to be in comp number 1 position because it does matter. That is what this step is for, display order. In what order do you want these displayed? Okay, so that Beale landing court is in the spot number 1, therefore it's going to be comp number 1. So what you can do is, it's not a click and drag, but there's a feature right here called order by. So all it's doing right now for my settings, it's sorting my comps high to low. So you might find that, I really need it to be sold to active, and then you could do a second one, maybe days on market, maybe then it is priced high to low, distance, the sold date, you have all of these different options, okay? And you organize it whatever it takes to get that one particular listing in that first position, if that's important to you, okay? Like what you have, I know here in Houston, our MLS has this feature. You can add in adjustments. So if there is something that, 380 and you need to add something or take away something, maybe show something that price isn't taken into consideration, you can do that. So if I say, I don't know, new roof, that example, and I put in positive 5,000, save, it'll populate, but it will then do an adjusted price to 385, okay? And I can remove that. I can go back and add it, whatever I want. I also can see, it's really little, but it's button with the little comment box says edit remarks. This is going to be tied to the MLS, and this is the listing agent's remarks. I like this feature because if this happens to be in your sphere, or it happens to be, your farm, you hopefully have walked these homes and you know everything about your farm. You could also add in your own comments. So in my case, I'm the agent here, Taylor's comments. I've walked this home and here's my comments versus here's the listing agent's comments. Okay, and that way I just have some sort of reference for my seller, because again, I'm trying to impress them. I'm trying to win this listing. I want them to know that out of all these comps, I've seen every single one, walked them, I've done my research, and here's, I'm preparing them for a reason, which that is going to be to give them an estimate and a suggested price. Okay, so you can do all of that with each of these listings if you want. And then step number 4 is your estimate page. Okay, your estimate page is where the calculations come into play. So based on all of this sold comps I've pulled, it gives me an average price. And then based on the sold comps I've pulled with my square footage, it will give me an average price. Okay, you do have the option. So right here in this field is where your price that you're going to recommend to your seller goes. Okay, so if you type in your own, you can. Or I know that most agents are providing a range. So in that case, you click Create Range button, and you could either do a percentage change. So from what I entered 380, I want to do a 1% difference, 1% down, 1% up, and click Calculate. It will do the math for me. Or I just do my own numbers. Okay, whatever works for you. I click Apply, and now my range will be here. Okay, without filling out this information, again, on my pages, it will be blank. Okay, I think it's the next one. Nope, it was that one. I just haven't clicked refresh. Okay, so that's all this page is telling us. And then step number 4, actually, let me go back. Sorry, I always forget this one. You also have a seller's net proceeds page where you can fill out calculations. Now, going on your listing appointment, you might not have all of this information, right? You might not know how much they owe in the house and how much, on all of these fields. But know that you do have this as a form that you can use, okay? So again, in your final presentation, this is going to be a page. So if you don't fill anything out, it will be blank. So you either delete it, or it's the perfect segue in the listing appointment to say, hey, while I'm here, let me go ahead and get some of these numbers from you, and let's estimate what your seller net proceeds will be. Okay, so now on to step number 5. Sorry, I'm opening up chat. It closed out on me. I want to see if anybody's asked anything. Perfect. Thanks, Caitlin, for commenting. So on step number 5 is pages. This is where you're going to spend the bulk of your time. You're going to master how to build your comps and all of that. But pages in the beginning is going to be where you want to really get to know what each page in the presentation says, how you're going to present on it, what your script is going to be, and do you even want to include it, right? Does it fit your story? So on this is where you edit everything, okay? So you can click into each one and it will give you a preview of what that page shows, okay? If these, and again, this is a template that we pulled. You haven't had to create any of these. If the page has this little pencil button, that means you can edit something on that page. So I'm on the cover page and I can give the cover page a title if I want. I can show or not show my title of who it's prepared for. I can remove my photo. You can also change the design. So all the way at the bottom, if you'd rather change up the design, you can. There's many options. Okay, you just pick the one you want and you go back. And it will automatically update for you. Some pages, I'll let that refresh. Some pages don't have the pencil button. That means because you cannot edit anything, okay? So you simply decide, do you want to keep it or do you want to remove it? If you want to remove a page, you click, it's the X in the circle, and it's done. It's removed for you, okay? If you accidentally remove a page, I'll show you in just a second how to add it back in. You also have the option of rearranging pages. So let's see your agent profile page, you don't want to open with that because that's basically slide number 1. You can, when it's blue, you just click and drag and you can rearrange it to wherever you want in your presentation. Okay, simple enough. So adding pages, add page up here at the top. You're going to see this every time you're in any sort of template in Moxi. And this will allow you 2 things. You can either add a page from our library that we have built. This is also where if you build yourself a custom page, it asks you to save that as a template as well, which means it gets saved in your library. So if I add from library, I either have the option of adding brokered pages that I have access to or my pages. And I have built a lot of pages just due to training. Hopefully you have just a few, but and I'll show you how to create one of these. But I created one yesterday with new testimonials dated March 2021. If I want to add that in here, I can. Okay. Same thing with brokerage pages. If there's something else that I feel like I want to add, I can browse through all of these folders that National has built for us. Okay. If I go back into pages and create a custom page, create new, you have 4 options here. You can build a page from scratch or upload a PDF. Upload a PDF is extremely simple. You just have a PDF saved on your computer. If it's 1 page, it will come up as 1 page in your presentation. If it's a 3-page PDF, it will add in 3 new pages, okay? But there's 0 editing you have to do, 0 anything you have to do, you just upload it. Very simple. Or you can create this custom page, like I mentioned. What you're gonna wanna do here is, it is gonna ask you, do you plan on presenting your presentation in a web form or PDF form, okay? As you can see, web form is more horizontal. Print portrait, which is PDF, is 8.5 by 11. So you do kind of have to know up front, do you plan on, like I'm showing y'all the web version, so it's gonna be more horizontal, okay? You choose the layout you want, you click create, And then it's going to pretty much be a very simple builder. So you can click text, image, video, or more, and it will allow you to type in anything. Okay, I always use testimonials. So I typed in testimonials, but it's really small. I can format, I can change the text, I can bold it, I can center it, all of the functions you're familiar with in Word and Outlook. It's simple. Image, if you have an image already saved, you can just check it, or you upload a new image from your computer. Okay, click add, and it will drop it in. Video is just as simple. If you have it does want a URL. So I like to use Listing Concierge example because when we get to the Listing Concierge pages, it might be really impressive to show what the TV commercial looks like, because otherwise the Listing Concierge pages is just one page. And so you're having to really paint the picture for them without any examples. So it's in your best interest to find, I'm gonna pause it, find either an old Listing Concierge video or simply one from another agent. It's okay. You plug in the URL, you click add, and it will literally embed it for you. You don't have to, YouTube has like the share and embed options and all of that. You don't have to do that. Just find the URL and plug it in, and it's automatically there for you. Okay. When you're done, you click save, and this is where it's going to ask you to save the page. So if I, Listing Concierge example, something like that, so I can reference it later. And again, that's going to be dropped into my library so that I can pull it into another presentation in the future if I want. You saw it generating, that means it was saving. That also means it dropped into my presentation. So I can click X because there is no add to presentation button or anything. I click X, and here it is in my presentation. Okay, if I refresh my presentation here, then as long as I'm connected to the internet, my YouTube video will have a play button and it will work. Okay, you also have the option, let me get there to show you. You also have the option of hyperlinking. So see if I play that right there. Okay, of hyperlinking text. So back where I was, when I was editing, if I highlighted an image and hyperlinked it, that would also be linked in your final presentation too. Okay. I mentioned the CBx pages. So I'm not going to dive into that due to time, but there are 3 pages here. The first one is called CVX Buyer Profile. This is an introduction to you explaining to your sellers that you have the power of this technology called CVX, and it's basically big data that will help you as the agent identify potential buyers and who you're going to market to. It helps you be more strategic in your marketing, right, at the end of the day. So this is a really good slide, as long a page to keep, and then you can choose to keep the other 2 I'm going to show you, okay? I recommend it at the beginning if you were late. I don't dive into this due to time, but if you don't know what the CVX Buyer Technology does, I do recommend you get with your local field marketing team. And if you're a self-paced learner, I recommend on desk, you simply explore it through the tile called CBx Buyer Locator. Okay, essentially this tool, this tile, was integrated into Moxi. And so all the same data points were pulled into Moxi. However, you pick and choose what data points you want shown. Okay, so it's saying my subject property, I put in this zip 77433. And so it's giving me an overview. There's about 1,100 vacant homes in this area. 3,300 are rented, 27,000 are owner occupied. There are other data points I can include. If I scroll back down, I have that pencil button I mentioned. I can click the pencil button and I have all of these data points I can choose to present to my seller. And again, you take it or leave it. If you don't want to talk about this information to your sellers, if you don't think it will bring any extra value, don't mention it. But there are some things I like, such as average home improvement spending, right? That's, if they have some improvements that they need to spend or that they need to invest in before they go on the market, Well, you can include this as a data point and say, look, the average in this area is also, it's $4,100. So other sellers are kind of going to expect, or other buyers are going to expect that you spend a little bit to kind of get some of these certain things up to date or whatever. You throw, and then you could pitch Real Vitalize if you wanted. There's also this average household income, which I love, because then when you get to listing concierge or your marketing plan and you're talking about your, let's say mailers, you can use, we also have Cole Realty Resource, and you can find people based on their income. Now you can be a little bit more strategic in who you're sending a mailer to versus just randomly sending it to a radius. You can say, I'm going to be strategic in who I'm not going to send it to people who we assume can't afford it, but we're going to get similar type of buyers into your home. Okay, so you just check any of these you want. You click X and it will refresh. It takes a minute. And once that loads, the other thing is the second tab is the people of that area. That's also fun to look at some like financial profiles. Same thing, though it's self-paced. You can read about that in the tile. The third page for CBX is the buyer profile map, which will then tell us, based on the zip code of the property I'm going to, 77433, I'm trying to win the listing in that area, it is going to give me this profile, an overview, but then I can actually click around. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I can actually click around this area and show them what other zip codes have what's called high buyer matches. Okay, so this zip right here, 100% of the people that live in this area match where my subject property is. I have actually never seen another 100%. So that would be a really good zip to target with mailers. Okay, so you can kind of click around and talk to them about that. So it's kind of fun. Again, if you don't want to include this, you just simply click the X's and you remove it. Then lastly, I do want to mention Listing Concierge. I'm in the main seller presentation. You do need to decide going into that listing appointment, are you going to talk about your marketing strategy and are you going to invest in Listing Concierge? If you are, please note that there are 3 pages automatically included. You definitely do not want to share all 3, okay? So you do need to decide beforehand which one you're going to invest in. If you're going to invest in silver, like gold, remove platinum, remove silver. Okay, if you're not going to invest in Listing Concierge at all, remove all 3 because you don't want to talk about something you're not going to follow through with. Okay, so that is one where I was telling you it's not 100% grab and go, but if you make these changes, I will show you how you can save this as a template to save you time later. Okay. So again, you read through all of these. Down towards the bottom is where your comps come into play. You might find that there are some repetitive pages. You find the ones that you like and you remove the ones you don't. Okay. Lastly, on here at the very, very bottom, save as template. Every template you have on Moxi is going to have this at the bottom. I've made my edits, right? I added that custom page. I removed lots of pages. I don't want to do that again every single time. So I'm going to save this as a template. So I'm going to now call this my seller's presentation. Taylor's seller pres. Let's do pres. Okay. And it will date it. If you want, you can also date it. Up to you. It's also going to ask you from those 4 original categories. If you remember at the beginning, I had to pick the seller category. Where do you want it to show up? It's going to know if this is the seller's presentation. I would leave it in the seller's presentation. I wouldn't move it. Okay. Click save. And now I'm done. All right. And my template is done. Next time I pull that template, all I have to do is pull my comps. Okay. It doesn't copy my comps because obviously I'm going on a different listing appointment, but all of these page edits I made have been saved. So my final comment, I know I'm pushing it close to time. I can be very wordy, is I've shown you how you can use the view button. That's the web version I keep showing you. If you want the PDF version, you click view and then print portrait. Okay. It will open up a new tab and it will generate a PDF. These do kind of take a little bit. So if you aren't sure if you're going to have the internet when you go to someone's house, either have this already on your computer or go ahead and print it and bind it at your office. You will find, I'll let that run, but you will find the layout's going to be different. Obviously, it's not horizontal, it's 8.5 by 11 vertical. And then on your comps page, so on my web version, my comps are very integrated. It's very tech savvy, side-by-side comparisons. As I'm presenting this, I can go, okay, look, here's comp number 1. My little cursor turns into a hand, which means I don't have to shuffle pages and show them other things. I can show them everything on my computer screen or their computer screen or my iPad. I can open up photos and make those larger. I can go back. These arrows allow me to go through comp number 1, comp number 2, comp number 3. It's very integrated, okay? My PDF is not that way. It's just going to kind of be like you've printed off the details pages for each one. So you can, and it's, you can see it still takes a while. So you'll get to know what you're most familiar with and what you're comfortable presenting. You can send these presentations from Moxi. I click the little envelope icon that says send. You can send the web version. You can send the PDF version. You plug in your client's info and it sends right here. So a lot of agents do this as soon as they get back to their car. They have this kind of fired up and then they send it off. If you don't like to send it from this platform, you can use, this is web-based, so that means this is a URL, which means you can copy it and paste it and put it in your own email if you want. Or again, your PDF, you download and you save the PDF on your computer and you could just send as an attachment, but you do have the option here, okay? The settings category is kind of the things that we've already done. We've named the presentation. There's not really any edits you're gonna make there, okay? So I think that is everything on that page. I did go a little bit longer than I wanted, but let me show you a couple of other things. On my presentation, I have my logo at the very front. This is a new feature. You can do that when you are on your home page of Moxi. Okay, whenever we click the new Create New button, right next to Create New is this little gears icon, and there's something called Presentation Settings. You can click that, and you can actually see what the default settings are that the brand has set for you. But from here, there's this additional logos button, and you can actually upload. What it's going to show you is none, but then you can scroll down and click personal logo and click edit, and you can upload your personal logo if you have one. Okay, and then click save when you're done. Lastly, on my agent profile page, my photo, my bio, once that loads, I might have deleted it. All of that information is fed from your settings. So the top right in your Moxi account, click the first drop down, My Account. And right here, personal info, contact info, and web info all feeds to your agent profile page, okay? And I do want to find that real quick for you. Maybe I did delete it though. Bummer. Nope, there we go. I just moved it. So my photo, some information, my contact information, and my bio, okay? Notice I also have hyperlinks in my bio. You can hyperlink anything. I've hyperlinked market reports, okay? So you can click the blue edit, the little pencil button, and that will allow you to go into editing mode for personal info, name, designations, area of service, languages you speak, contact info, your email, your phone numbers. Most of this should be fed from Trident, but double check it. Web info, that's where you're going to do most of your customizing. The About Me section is where you're going to have paragraph number 1. If you've never added anything here, it's going to be blank. So the title is going to be, like I have your field marketing resource. That's right here. It's bolded. And then obviously the paragraph below it is my copy. Okay. To add in a second paragraph, it's not naturally there. You do have to click the blue Add Info button. Notice it dropped in paragraph 3. And again, you give a title and you drop in text. If you want to hyperlink something, you just you highlight it and click the link. And when you're done, you click Save. Okay. If y'all have questions, I will definitely stick around. But that is everything I want to talk about and show you. There are other features. So if you happen to be on a team or you're co-listing with somebody, know that you do have options from a presentation. Let's say this presentation, I want to, I'm going to co-list with somebody. I can add a co-presenter, and what that will look like is right here. I know it's small, but it will add my headshot as well as my co-lister's headshot. So it looks like, it's a dual scenario. You can also assign this template to another agent, which means it will literally take this template and send it to somebody. So if you're a team lead, you might want to consider that. Okay. So I'm not seeing any other questions, so I will still stick around if anybody has anything, or I can demonstrate anything you might need to see. Okay, well, I'll take the silence as a good thing then. You're very welcome, Nicole and Jesse. Thank you all so much for joining. I will send out a follow-up email on the recording here shortly. Y'all have a great afternoon.